Somebody emailed me and asked me why Stinky isn't in very many videos anymore. Stinky, come here, little guy. Stinky. He's here, he just doesn't like sitting behind me anymore on this sofa. That's what it is. Here, I got him. Stinky. He's too grown up for Mama now, aren't you? Anyway, I think I embarrass him. So this is from Celia. And Celia says, I would like to ask you if you've ever had a compulsion or interest in discarded food when you were in recovery. Sorry, I got stinky fluff on my nose. I'm at a normal weight now after 15 years of restriction and compulsive jump rope. A stretch factor at both feet brought a halt to that. I am asking because no matter how much food I have in the fridge, I have an abnormal interest in discarded food and I can't stop myself from checking what might be in the bin. I've had to dump my flatmate's cigarette ash in it to prevent me going in the bin sometimes. I would be mortified if anyone caught me. I'd love to stop this strange habit. I'm so grateful if you could suggest why I'm doing it and how to stop. Sorry for the essay. I hope you have a good day and Holden is still feeling fresh. Kind regards, Celia. Holden is still feeling fresh. So fresh that he ripped his nose open on the fence. I think it was on the fence. Could have been on anything, knowing him. But he's fine, thank you. For anybody who is not English, a bin is the trash can. I still call it a bin, even though I've been here 8 years. And people don't know what I'm talking about. Dave, get your butt out of the video. Okay. So, yes. I did this too. I really like it when people talk about the less palatable, literally, sorry, didn't have a cat mum, the less palatable parts of having an eating disorder. None of it's very nice anyway, but there's some stuff that's just really pretty disgusting and very embarrassing. One of them is stealing, which I blogged about and I wrote about that in my book. And this kind of thing is another one. Dumpster diving. Rooting through the trash. Ruffling through the bin for scraps of food. And yes, I used to do that. And yes, it used to disgust me that I used to do that. But for some reason, I still did it. For me, this is when I was at university and we were in shared digs, so about 30 people in one house with a shared kitchen. And we had a fridge, which was quite big, but so everybody had a little section of the fridge, and I had plenty of, I think we had fridges in our rooms as well. I can't remember, maybe we didn't, but either way. So there was a fridge, and it's not that I didn't have the ability to have food. I did have the ability to have food. I just didn't, I guess, I don't know. For me, what it was about was a lot of the time when you have anorexia, you restrict money as well, and money becomes a problem. I've written about this extensively also. But so for me, it was the money thing. I had food, and the hoarding thing as well, because when our brains think that resources are scarce, they want to hoard things. And so it wasn't the fact that I didn't have money and I couldn't buy food and I didn't have food that I couldn't eat. It was more the fact that I didn't want to use up my resources. If I could get something out the bin and eat that, it meant that I had saved my own resources, which all of these things, they all come down to scarcity mindset, which is actually one of the reasons that I'm such a proponent of the migration theory of anorexia and the biological stuff, because there's so much else that comes into anorexia that's just not even, that shows that the brain thinks that resources are scarce. It's really not about just wanting to be thin. And so this sort of stuff is really your brain showing you that, and I'm talking brain stem area, because your logical brain knows that resources are not scarce. Your logical brain knows that you're not in a famine, but you're still acting like you are. If there was food shortage, we would absolutely root through bins. That's what we do to survive. Your brain thinks that food is scarce. Even if your upper brain, prefrontal cortex area, knows that food is not scarce, your brain stem area, which doesn't think, it just reacts to data, your brain stem area is reacting as if food is scarce, because the data it's being given would indicate that food is scarce. That's your energy deficit, right? So It's really common. Stinky! Shush! It's really common. It's not something that people like to talk about very much. Yes, it's embarrassing. It can make you feel disgusting, and that doesn't help because people with anorexia don't tend to be particularly compassionate towards themselves. And so then when you're doing something that makes you feel disgusting and is disgusting by society standards, you give yourself an even harder time and are like, well, I'm going to starve myself even more because I'm so disgusting, or I'm going to push myself to exercise even more because I'm so disgusting, all that shit. Have compassion for yourself and use this information. Rooting through the bin is not normal behavior. You didn't used to do that before you had an eating disorder, did you? This is a product, this is a result of your brain thinking that resources are scarce. It is a result, and it is indicative that your brain still thinks that resources are scarce. And therefore, when your brain no longer thinks that resources are scarce, when you are no longer in energy deficit, when you're fully recovered, your brain will have no desire to root through the bin. And I know that's true because I haven't done it since I fully recovered. Okay? So, Celia, this says nothing about you as a person. It says everything that you have an eating disorder. And it says everything that your brain still thinks that resources are scarce. So what you need to do is you need to eat a lot more food. You need to eat the highly palatable food. So this is another thing that used to happen with me. The food that I had in the fridge wasn't necessarily the food that I really wanted to eat. So things like pizza, which I convinced myself that I didn't like, but I would still root through the trash and get bits of it when other people had it. So that's not always true. I sometimes would root through the trash and eat the type of food that I had in the fridge as well, and that's because of the hoarding thing and not wanting to use up my own supplies. But a lot of the time it would also be like I'd be rooting through there because other people were eating, quite frankly, much more tasty foods than I was. So have a think about that as well. Can you eat more highly palatable foods? You say that you're in recovery and you have a lot of food in the fridge, but is that really the type of food that you want to be eating? And ultimately, Celia, from what you've written, I can tell that you're not eating enough because your brain still thinks that food is scarce, right? Hope that helps. Full recovery is your answer. Eat and rest.